Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
Well, good evening, my good friend. How the devil are you?
Well, as always, all the better for seeing you, Sam. How are you doing, mate? You well?
Yeah, I'm all right. You've clearly been on the sauce, haven't you, if you think it's that nice to be talking to me? No. It is lovely to see you, although it is slightly sad, mate, because we've come to that time in the season again where we're looking back because we've got nothing new to bring. Well, it's not that we haven't got anything new to bring, but it is that time where we're doing our best of episodes, looking back over our favourite clips and the highlights of the season, because we're preparing for our next season. So today, in particular, it's all about the best bits of the guests from season 11. And we've had some wonderful visitors this season, haven't we, mate? Really
we have half a dozen fantastic guests that, I mean, it's that thing, but we never want to leave them alone. So this is the joy of this episode, is we don't want to leave them. They've been so good. I mean, we've had some fabulous guests that we just need to squeeze a little bit more out of them. And that's what we're doing now. That's what.
Well, yeah, exactly. We're getting our money's worth, so to speak, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Or certainly giving the audience what they've paid for. Well, they haven't paid for it, but you know what I mean. They're getting just as much as they bargained for, and then perhaps a little
bit more.
Besides. And this season, we kicked things off with the very, very talented Mr. Gary Anthony Rogers, who is a superb DOP, director of photography, who I've had the privilege of working with. And safe to say, he is extremely good at what he does.
Also extremely good at what he does. It is followed up by the wonderful Brian Law, who now not only is he a fantastic actor and terribly busy, where does he find the time to be such an academic as well? He's one of the cleverest actors, literally the cleverest actors I've ever had the joy of meeting, but a fabulous actor as well.
Yeah, very talented guy, and yeah, a bit unfair that he's able to do so many different things as well. Save some skills for the rest of us.
Absolutely.
Straight after, or I say straight after, but the next guest we had after the lovely Brian was the equally lovely and very, very funny Mr. Roman Stefanski, who you could refer to as the master of puppets, but we're not talking Metallica here for any heavy metal fans out there.
Right.
No. A brilliant puppeteer and also a fantastic producer and director of theatre, just a very talented man all round. And he even masquerades, or has done previously, as a rather famous, shall I say, serial-based character. We shall say no more at this stage.
I like that. We'll have to remind everyone of that in a little while.
Yes,
followed next by a gentleman that I know that you are having an enormous amount to do with at the moment, Mr. Andie Lindfield, who is actually employing our dear beloved Sam and whisking you away from us on tour. But he's a producer, a director, actor, ex-drummer. There's a story in there for you as well. So that's the lovely Mr. Andie Lindfield.
Yes, indeed. No, I'm currently working with him, or at time of recording, I'm working for his company, Dot Productions, having a blinding time doing open-air theatre, just loving it, particularly because I get to work with him, which is obviously one of the main highlights. Now, speaking of highlights, another highlight of this wonderful season was the wonderful guest that is Sue Gilroy, very, very talented lady who I'm quite concerned about in ways because she'd worked with you before and somehow that made her want to work with you again. So I don't know what was going through her mind at that point, but a brilliant dramaturg and producer of fantastic theatre. So a brilliant, brilliant guest.
I'd say she was drunk when she employed me, but she doesn't drink, so I haven't got that excuse. But our final guest of the season, a great friend of mine, a guy I've worked with a couple of times, a gentleman called Pete Lovstrom. Now, Pete has a fantastic pedigree as an actor, but he has a particular skill that, should we say, he falls over for a living. And he's
literally that, yeah.
Yeah, he literally throws himself to the ground for our amusement and delectation. A fantastic physical comedian. Wonderful guy.
Brilliant guy. And yes, as are all of our guests, fantastically talented and wonderful people. And it was a joy to host each and every one of them. So I don't know about you, mate, but I'm going to grab a drink and I'm going to say cheers to each and every one of our guests and to all our listeners and watchers. Here are the highlights of the guests of season 11. Cheers.
When I teach students, I surprise them because I say, you are a puppeteer. You know you puppeteer, don't you? No. Come on, can't you remember? Yeah. Oh, okay, I wasn't there, but I know you puppeteer. Well, you didn't have Cindy come through and little cuddly bear come through and sit them down and had the tea party, and that was cold, that was sweet, and your parents had to watch, and never did that. Oh yes, it's in you. It's in your soul, in your spirit. So it's not touch a puppet. No, it's bring back the joy that you had in creating these worlds and showing them again. So that is what was. The other incident about puppet is that I've just done a show. I was performing on the polka stage, and I'd just done Towser's Big Surprise. So the fluffy sort of dog puppet. And at the end of the show, we were setting the stage, and the kids were still there, and they were, I want to see Towser, I want to see Towser. Sick of away, children. So I go backstage, and puppets and booths and things hang upside down. Glove puppets hang upside because then all you do is you slip your hand in, unhook it, and it's there. Roman decided to just pick up the puppet and ring and walk to the front of the stage to the children. And as soon as I put my hand into the glove puppet and brought it up, Roman disappeared. Puppet was the B and end all.
Yeah.
I had been rudely destructive because I really pissed off on the go home. But as soon as I switched on, and in front of your eyes, there's the thing hanging upside down. It's a doll. Put my hand in there, bring it up, and all of a sudden, Towser, we love you, and all that sort of thing.
I'm Sue Gilroy. I am a theatre maker, I guess, mainly director, and I like to add dramaturg, although I'm not entirely sure I know what it means. So I do most things in theatre. I have in my time been in most roles in theatre, and like to concentrate on being a director where I can. That's the very short version.
I love it. Beautifully succinct. I mean, what more do we know? Now, you said something there that I've always been intrigued by. You said dramaturg. Now, I remember doing a fringe show years ago, and there was a dramaturg, and they were very excited, saying we're going to have a dramaturg in the room, and I didn't know whether that was a kind of dog or whatever. I'd heard the phrase. What is it? And this guy arrived, and he was immensely knowledgeable, and he arrived with the hugest pile of books that has ever been brought into a rehearsal room. What is a dramaturg, Sue? For those people like me who go, what?
Well, I did a couple of online workshops during the Unwelcome Visitor that we had a few years ago, and a couple of them were about dramaturgy. And I think people have different ideas, but one guy said there are 3 different types of dramaturgs. There are ones who know the canon of theatre stuff. So if you've got like the National Theatre, they'll have a dramaturg. So if you're going to be doing a certain play, you might do a Shakespeare play. They might say, are you aware that there's another more modern play that's kind of complement to that? You might want to consider putting that in your season.
I see.
That's one type of dramaturg, which I am not. I mean, if the National Theatre want to employ me, I'll give it a go. The other 2 types of dramaturg, one is one who works with people who are devising. So if you're devising a piece, it can be quite helpful to have someone outside saying, yeah, that storyline isn't quite working. Because I did a devised piece when we were all actors in it, and it was about war, and we had 2 characters, one of which was great fun. It was the generals, and we were having great fun with it. And I suddenly said, hang on, I think we're making war look fun here, and I'm not sure that's what we're trying to do, taking it into schools. So I've done a bit of that. But I think also dramaturgs sometimes are people who work with writers, and I've done a lot of new writing and worked with new writers and helped them bring it to the stage. So yeah, so those are the, as I understand it, and I may very well be wrong, those are the three types of dramaturgs.
I'm going to pull you up on one particular thing you said there, your portfolio of things that you do. And it has to be said, it's incredibly varied, massively impressive, and almost a little frustrating to us lowly actors who have done a little bit of other stuff to hear just how successful you've been on so many different platforms, if you don't mind me saying, of course. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to list through. So you originally studied in Miami, is that right? That's where you got your first, your first degree?
Yeah, it was my first degree in Florida. Architecture.
So architecture will have as number one architecture. From that, I believe you also do a bit of art, as in painting and drawing and that sort of thing on the side.
Yeah, I mean that was mainly. I mean, just briefly in high school, I just sort of did all of the clubs basically. So I did do art just as a course, but then I did theater. I did. I was in all the bands. Like I think I was in 4 different bands, played 4 different instruments. So I was just a very creative person, and that's sort of why I went into architecture, because it was sort of a creative field, but then also professional. According to my dad. So, yeah.
But then to sort of swerve away from the artistic side, also worked in economics, so the London School of Economics, where you got, is that another degree and a master's there? Is that right?
Yeah, so I did. I did a master's in public policy at the London School of Economics, and before that, so it does seem kind of random, but I did do sort of a little transition-y period where, I just did a little diploma, a distant learning diploma in international development. So this is me sort of just trying to segue into the social sciences, because I was trying to, I did all the arts, and I was sort of thinking it'd be good to do something a bit more, impactful, meaningful. But at the same time, I did that distant learning course just having fun in Berlin. I just kind of just went there, had some fun, met a lot of friends, studied on the side, and then wrote 4 exams to get this diploma. But it was just a little break that I needed, I think, after my undergraduate.
The average man goes, I need a break, I'm going to go and have 2 weeks holiday somewhere sunny. They don't go, I need a bit of a break, I'm going to go and study for a diploma in a completely different country in Europe. But I mean, as said, so many different strings to your bow. Coming back to the artistic and performing side, you also do, I'm not sure if you still do, but theatre lighting, is that right, as well as performing on stage? So...
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I always wanted to be an actor. Like I, did plays when I was in like grade 1, 2 sort of thing. But then weirdly in high school, I think I was just quite busy with more academic stuff. So I did theater lighting, sort of because it was a bit easier in that sense. And I actually really got into it, and I continued doing that a bit in university, which was quite fun because obviously they had a lot more professional equipment, and I got to light some of their main stage shows, and also got to light a lot of their shows in the opera school, which was quite good, because actually my partner's an opera singer, and that's my little foray into the opera, which was quite cool. But yeah, exactly. I did that, which is just a different sort of creative thing, but in the same way as acting, like I still saw it as sort of a new kind of way of storytelling, right? It's sort of installation-y, sort of abstract, but you're still telling a story through your lights. I mean, there's people on stage, but you're kind of the one focusing the attention, providing the mood, and adding the sort of color to the story.
It's very similar to film editing. It's it's been done, but until you break it down, you never really see the effect that it has, because we sit in front of a screen, we watch TV, we watch film, we go to the theatre, and we just accept what we're seeing. But if you sit, and I've directed shows, and I've sat with lighting designers going, so I thought it might be quite sunny here. And the guy goes, okay, how about this? Boom, boom, boom. And you go, wow, that's July and it's hot. And suddenly you see that happen. I love the idea you say. It is storytelling, isn't it? It adds completely. I mean, if it's dark, you don't see anything. And suddenly the guy, whoever's designing it, the light designer, or whoever just goes that, or the editor goes that, and you go, okay, I never saw that. I never see that. So that's a beautiful.
Yeah, I never thought about it as sort of film editing, but it sort of is that exactly. You're adding like the grading, but then also you're the one cutting the scene essentially. I'm obviously doing part of the script, but you are sort of cutting the story together in a sense, which is Good way of putting it.
It's a juggling act. I mean, especially for an open air theatre company, if you have a rainy day or a rainy summer, falling on your face. And as we're not funded, we don't have any arts council funding or anything like that. We don't have that. So if we have a bad year, we take the financial hit of that. And as it's just myself and Louisa now who run it as a family business, it's you worry. You're always worried, especially this time of year. You're looking out the window going, okay, it's raining now, but is it going to be summer? Is it going to be summer soon? Because I need tickets to start selling. And I hate thinking like that as an actor. I really do.
You have to cover your bases, don't you, Andy? I mean, but Verona, my wife and I, we've started producing shows over the past 3 or 4 years at a venue that we're working closely with, and you think. I mean, I become obsessed. Every day you check the website, or they're going up, or they're not going up. We need to push the marketing, but that's in a venue. We're inside. We are going to produce a summer panto this year outside, so we'll be going through the same angst as yourself. But you throw into the mix that I mean, there are, along with yourself, well established rural touring and stately home touring companies going to stately homes, gardens, etc. You throw that in the mix. I mean, you can't plan for that. Do you plan for that? Do you say, well, if we, what can we cover ourselves? Can we go inside? Or do you just go, it's rained off, that's it, we'll have to take the hit? Is there anything you can do?
The general rule for most of these companies is we continue performing unless it's dangerous to do so.
Right.
So, and a lot of the audiences who come to these events, they know this. They're great. I mean, they're some of the best theatre audiences in the world because they will sit there watching you under not an umbrella. I must add, don't bring an umbrella, but under a hooded jacket with rain pelting them, and they're kind of there watching the actors just get soaking and keep going through it. And that's the thrill for them. And we've always said, if they're going to sit there and watch it, then we're going to do it.
We're going to keep going.
They've paid their price. They've paid for their ticket. We're not going to give up if it's just a little bit of rain. I've had some actors work for us over the years who've given me that little look on stage when it starts to rain, and as if to say, "Are we stopping?" And we carry on. No, you just whatever you've got on, you're soaking, and you're just coming off stage. And lucky it's the summer. It's usually warm. It's not too inconvenient. It is just water at the end of the day.
When you say about making actors look good, it's just getting harder, Sam, because I'm using 6K now. 6K, it's showing every wrinkle, So my job's getting harder, Sam.
Well, I mean, the problem from my perspective is, and Drew had given up on this years ago because he's been a wrinkly old man for the last 12 decades.
I know how he feels, though. I'm sorry, I sympathise with you there.
I'd just like to say that as a character actor, age and appearance mean nothing to me, my friend. I just build on them. They are my calling card.
Well, carry on. My issue is that the cameras are getting better and I'm getting older and less youthful. So it's going the wrong direction.
You've got it all to come, my friend. Yeah.
Oh, I know. Hasn't he just?
Hasn't he just, mate?
Do you know?
Wait until you turn 50. That's all I say.
I keep booking lovely people on the podcast thinking, oh, you come on and we'll have a nice old chat. And all that happens is Drew and whoever it is gang up on me every time. So I'm going to have to learn the hard way with this one, I think.
How it got into my interest in comedy and variety was, I can't remember exactly what. I do remember where it was. I was about 17 and I was living in Pinner at the time with a girlfriend that I met at the youth theatre, and she used to go to these acrobatic classes, right? And I'd always been interested in that. I was always quite physical. I used to box at school and I did a lot of judo. My dad was a fantastic judo player, so I got into judo, and so I was aware of physicality. But this girlfriend, she's got these acrobatics. She says, "Want to come?" I thought, "Yeah, I want to come." So I met this woman. And she was about 50 and she did a lot of pantomimes and things like that. And she was really fit still, really like supple and strong. And she could still do backflips and handsprings and stuff. And I used to go, it was a very sort of spit and sawdust kind of scout hut, no mats, you know, like coconut matting, you know, very, very basic. And but through her, I found out she'd been trained by this Hungarian circus acrobat, a guy called Eugene Barla, who was a variety acrobat and a circus acrobat. And after I moved back to sort of more central London, I found him out because I met a few people down Covent Garden because I used to go and watch the acts down there, and I had a few mates that were doing acts, and one of them mentioned this guy. So I used to go to classes with him, Eugene, in his little flat in Brixton. It was a really dirty old guy, and he's dead now. Eugene, he's a fantastic character. He was must have been about 75, 80 then. Really strict, sort of heavy set Hungarian guy. And I used to go into his flat, and he had a sort of a harness up with rope around it and a big Alsatian dog that barked at you that was always chained up in the corner. No mat, it was a dusty carpet. And he'd like slap your ass so you'd have to do a somersault really high, no higher, and he'd whack you around. And occasionally he'd bring down loads of photos of his work in like circuses and variety. And he used to his speciality was backward somersaults and handstands, and he was sort of in an act in a barrel. He was inside a barrel, and he used to be able to come out, jump out of the barrel, and then somersault, sort of a gainer somersault, which is a back somersault that goes forward.
Yeah.
And he could somersault backwards, even though it was a gainer, for about 1.5 meters. It's really hard to do. So he's doing a back somersault, but instead of just going up like that, he'd go like divers do it, you know, and they do a back somersault, they're facing forward. And you know, he used to tell me all about this, and that got me really interested. And then I made more friends down Covent Garden, and I used to watch the acrobats down there, and I thought and then round about that time, I was living in Portobello Road, and up the Electric Cinema, they were doing a retrospective of Buster Keaton with a live flautist. And so I went down there with a mate, and you could smoke in those days. So, you know, we were having a spliff and a flapjack and a cup of coffee and just watching like 10 hours of Buster Keaton. Like, who is this guy? It's like, because it was black and white and slightly overcranked, it looked like cartoony. You didn't realize somebody could actually do this stuff. And I was just hooked, you know. And then round about the same time, there was a retrospective of, I'd read in the Sunday Observer about the granddaughter of Lupino Lane, and talking about Lupino Lane.
Yeah.
And I later found out one of the guys I was working with in Class Enemy, Keith Jane, his granddad was an acrobatic tap dancer, and he worked with Lupino Lane. So I've got 2 degrees of separation from Lupino Lane. So I watched this retrospective for Lupino Lane down the NFT. And he was like this incredible acrobatic comedian. Like, you know, it was like a type of English Buster Keaton, although he was more musical comedy, but he could do all the stuff Buster could. And so that really got me interested. And this was kind of pre-videotape. So I bought a little cine camera and a screen down in Piccadilly, and I got some film of Buster Keaton. I used to watch it and slow it down and work out, or try to work out, how he did all these pratfalls.
Yeah.
And round about the same time, I found this fantastic book called How to Become a Comedian by Lupino Lane. And it had wonderful stick drawings of how to do pratfalls. And
they're amazing.
Yeah, it's a great book. And how to do ventriloquism and how to double talk. And because Lupino had to fall downstairs. Lupino's Lane family, he came from a commedia family, went right back to the 1600s where they were puppeteers when they came over here. And so that was started my obsession with physical comedy.
I still like to do a bit of everything, yes. I still dress. For the last few years, I've been dressing every Christmas on A Christmas Carol at the Old Vic.
Oh, wow.
Which is great fun. It's a lovely show. It's a lovely show to work on.
And I mean, that is far away from being at the forefront of directing. That's a completely different skill altogether. So, I mean, actually, so I think that's probably, I don't think we've really ever gone into that, have we, Drew? So,
we haven't, no.
Explain to people, when you say you've been dressing, perhaps for those that don't quite understand the terminology there, fill us in a bit more about exactly what goes on in that respect.
Oh, yes, when you say you dress people, they say, well, can't they dress themselves? And to be fair, most of the time they can, but often they can't if it's a quick change or there's lots of costumes. So as a dresser, you're usually assigned to an actor or a room of actors or a certain set of actors, and you make sure all their costume is there at the start of the show. You take it to where it needs to be, what might be in the dressing room. But if you're on a show like when I covered on 42nd Street for a while when the tour came into town, and the girls got dressed at the big top of the show in their dressing room, came down to the stage and never went back to the dressing room. There just never was time. They just had so many quick changes. So you take downstairs to the stage the costumes that you need, put them where they need to be. And you can't always put them where they need to be at the top of the show. When I was dressing on Me and My Girl, there was a kitchen set, and I used to hang a costume on that. And I thought, I'll take it down early and hang it on, because then it went on stage with the set.
Oh, no.
And then you help do quick changes. And it varies how many dresses you have. I think we had 8 or 9 on Me and My Girl, because all the principals had a finale change. But on the tour of 42nd Street, they had 18 dresses.
Wow.
That's insane.
But on a straight play, you might only have 1.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
My then girlfriend, my then partner, just watched me stand in a bath, shave myself and apply, I think it was Imac in those days, to my extremities and scrape the hair from my body. And then went in on the Monday morning and he went, yes, laughter will go up 10 points on the Richter scale. And he wasn't wrong, but he was. But
hold on. Linking to that incident, I believe you were using Nair as opposed to Imac.
Oh, you're quite right.
That you were, in effect, now you're applying it onto your leg, and you found the best way to do it was putting your leg up on the toilet rim, on the bowl rim. And somehow scraping it off, etc., and the slippiness of it meant that your foot slipped into the toilet and you nutted the cistern tank in front of you. And next thing you came with this horizontal line on your forehead. What's that?
Right, so that's
was
one
it.
that you've kept from me, Drew, and kept from our audience. 150-something episodes, and you've not mentioned that one. So thank you, Roman, for bringing that up, because he's not alluded to that little gem.
But and these are these gems of moments that we have, and
it was so funny. You're exactly right. Yes, that is exactly what happened to me. And
how come I remember that for 39 years?
I don't. Yes, I don't.
It's easy actually because I keep relating.
Well, I was working on Disenchanted, so the sequel to Enchanted. Unfortunately, the scene did get cut, but it was a fun experience. I got to be with Patrick Dempsey, and also Jodie Benson was there as well. And it was supposed to be this little humorous scene, because they had a little dialogue going on, and then I think Patrick Dempsey's character works at a divorce attorney thing, which is supposed to be kind of funny because obviously he falls in love with blah blah blah, and that's his job. So me and this other actor were kind of improvising like a lot of this kind of like a big argument sort of a thing, and it was supposed to be this huge thing where we sort of throw things at each other. So they really set it up, and they kind of had like these foam like things in our purse that you could just throw around and stuff. And I thought it was really cool. So we were just getting ready and stuff, and I was playing with all the different like foam things. And I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I kind of just I'm just walking around, just kind of just feeling things. I don't know. And I was just like seeing this like really cool like vase. And I don't know why. I don't know why I instinctually did this, but I just pick it up. And it just shatters in my hand, making this like really loud noise. And everyone just like turns to me, and I'm just like, sorry? Like, I should have figured, but obviously, everything, the whole room was like bugged and wired to sort of just fall apart.
Yeah.
And they had, so obviously this nice vase that was just made out of like, candy glass or something. And I don't know how much it cost. And then the thing is, like, I don't think they had many replacements for these things. So I just thought one chance to be able to throw a vase. I didn't get to do that because I already destroyed it beforehand. So and then sadly, obviously, someone had to come over and clean it up, and I was just like, I'm sorry, and so yeah, a little tiny story there.
Well,
I think it's safe to say that Brian probably learned his lesson there, that not everything on the set is for picking up and finding out what it's all about. He learned it in quite a strange and abrupt way, as he explained there, but we're glad that obviously it didn't affect anything really, and it didn't stunt his growth as an actor or his future career, which is always a positive thing, isn't it, mate?
Well, it is. I mean, it's safe to say, though, that let's face it, that vase is never going to hold water again, is it? And I just nicked a little segue there because, quite frankly, mate, I don't think I can hold anything. I need to pop off for a little little tinkle. Just quickly, if you will, just excuse me.
Right, quick, run, go,
I'll be back in a minute. Bye.
You're back. Are you feeling relieved, Drew?
Thank you, Sam. I am. Yes, I'm going to give you a little gift here. I know how much you love a segue. I really needed that break. Go.
Very good, very good. So, yes, we've gone from talking about Brian breaking a vase that was designed to be broken, just maybe not at that moment, to another clip we're about to relive, where had something been broken, or if it is broken, people might have been slightly more concerned. One person in particular, I think. Shall we check that out now?
Let's go for it.
Oh, you just never know what's going to happen, actually. So I've always prided myself on being a pretty mild-mannered person on set. And I think most people will echo that to you, you know, as the guy that never seems to get stressed or angry. And I think, funnily enough, it was on Blade of the Assassin. I'm pretty sure it was. So we were at that golf course. If you remember, it was this, I don't even know whether it was being used. But anyway, it was on lots of ground around this beautiful place. I think at this point, it was about 2:00 in the morning. So the one thing that tends to start stressing you out is when you get to early hours of the morning and you're tired and it's pitch black and you're outside and it's cold.
Yeah.
I seem to remember there was two things actually that started really making me sort of get away from my mild mannered. We was outside, it was pitch black. I had my camera in my hand, which was a red Dragon at that time. Nice camera. They're not cheap. There was a piece of, we was outside, there was, for one, a piece of low-lying barbed wire, which nobody could see, and I went over it and tripped over that. So that was, and I, you know, okay, that was all right. I'd survived that one and still had a smile on my face, most likely. But then I remember so I was told, okay, yeah, we could probably get this shot from in this field, just over this fence, which I went into, and it was pitch black. I mean, you know, we hadn't got any lights up, which was always a mistake. Get working lights up.
Yeah.
I had the camera in hand. I didn't see a log that I tripped over. The camera, I obviously fell over. The camera went down onto the ground, but landed in a fresh cowpat.
Oh.
It was, you know, what are the odds? But it went into a cowpat, and I lost my shit then at that point. One of the few times I did lose my shit, and I was like, swear words were emanating from me.
Dare I say it? But you lost your shit when you found the shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was fair enough, to be honest. Everybody was just staring. They didn't know what to say because it was the first time anyone saw me actually lose my temper and swear on set.
And then I had the good fortune of having a week's work doing a Monty Python film. I was in a film called The Meaning of Life. So I worked with John Cleese and Terry Jones and stuff, and they were really, really nice people. Like I had this too, I had a tagline for a joke. Yeah. So the scene in Meaning of Life was, I'm a skinhead in it because I just done a film about a skinhead as well, and it was just after the show. So my hair was. So I'm a skinhead, and Terry Jones is my mum. He's dressed up as a woman. Yeah. And we're in this house that was like shot in Elstree or Pinewood, I can't remember where. And there's a knock at the door. And John Cleese there and someone else, I forget who was with him. And they said, we're from the Liver Donor Society. And Terry Jones said, yeah, well, what do you want? He said, well, I understand you've got a liver donor's card. So he said, yes, I have. He said, well, we like your liver. And he said, well, I'm not dead. He said, well, that's neither here nor there, sir. And they pushed him into the living room, slung him on the dining table and started ripping his guts open. And they had loads of cow's bloods and cow's offal and intestine, chucking them about. And there's all this blood and pumping the blood and they're ripping his guts out. And whilst they're doing this and he's screaming, I pop my head round the corner and say, right, Dad, I'm on for that now. Back about 7. And that was it. That was the gag. And it was that they were so nice. They had this sort of foresight of, it was all shot on cinema, on film then, right? So, usually you had to wait till it got developed before you could see the rushes. But they had the sort of foresight of taping a video camera that was quite new then to the side of the camera, so they could immediately look at the tape without waiting for it to get developed. So they would on a monitor saying, "You happy with that, Pete? Do you want to do that again, or do you want to have a crack at it?" And this is John Cleese. I think, okay, Mr. Cleese, yeah. Oh, do you want? Can we do that again? And he said. So I was very impressed with them, and so I start looking at 40 Towers and stuff, and then realised the obvious connection with Commedia. It was that they're classic Commedia characters, and I just thought it was genius. Like Manuel and the Major, and there was all the stock Commedia characters, Arlecchino and Puccinello and blah blah blah, and I just became so impressed with physical comedy because I'd kind of grown up seeing crackerjack comedy, which was and sort of Charlie Caroli and stuff, and I'd never really seen a circus clown that made me laugh. Now, Lupino Lane made me laugh and Buster Keaton made me laugh, but I'd never seen a circus clown made me laugh. And then I'd see people like Theatre for Complicity, and they were doing pratfalls and slapstick, but they were doing it meaningfully and truthfully. And so it kept the suspension of disbelief. And the whole point of I read a great book that my son bought me called The Naked Jape by Jimmy Carr that analyzes the whole kind of field of comedy. And, it's the shock of seeing somebody fall over and then realizing they're not her, and then realizing it's not you. And that's what makes if you can see it's been constructed, it's not funny. It's just, even if it's a really impressive fall, it's not funny.
It's all about natural, isn't it? It's about things that look absolutely real. Because it's, as you say, you don't want it to look forced. You don't want it to look preset or over-engineered. It's about making it look natural.
Absolutely. I mean, I used to love watching out-of-towners come into the Tube and try and master the escalators. Now, I don't even think about escalators anymore. So I don't look at my feet going off when you come bottom or the top. But when you get people from out of town and they've never been on an escalator, they struggle to time it to get off and on, and sometimes they trip and fall off, and I used to find that hysterical. And it's not seeing what they did when they tripped or they fall over. It's kind of they either look down at the step as if the step's fall, or they look over their shoulder to see if anyone's seen them. And I'd all take all this sort of stuff in.
I mean, you're looking remarkably well and healthy for a man who's been working recently with Mr. Sam Dunning. I have to say, you came out the other side of it very well.
It took its toll on me. I can safely say, but it's been a month or so off now, so I've managed to get back to full health and even grown facial hair again, which I had to shave off. I was going to
say, when we started touring, you had a full head of hair, and then you worked with me, and now you look like that. So it's
and I wasn't grey either in the beard. It's amazing working with you does. But there we go.
Yeah, which means it's even weirder that you've agreed to spend the next 2.5 months working with me, or certainly not in the same capacity necessarily, but you're subjecting yourself to my presence for at least the next few weeks. So
I am, yes, because you are coming to work for me, indeed, performing in An Ideal Husband.
I am, yes.
As an ideal husband, I'm not sure. No.
But as you know, I've done my research, and there was one job in particular that I managed to find hiding out there that you'd mentioned. And I'm not even going to allude to any part of it. I want you to tell the story from the off about how you became a certain beloved TV commercial character. Does that give you enough to know where I'm going with this?
Yes, it does.
Please do take the floor and go, because this.
One has to, every now and then, one has to put on this yellow fur suit. Again, it's the string of events. It's Polka Theatre. Originally was called Polka Children's Theatre with Actors and Puppets. A huge title, which then condensed down to Polka Theatre. And through Richard Gill and Polka, indeed, I specialised with puppetry, etc. And I've got a knack for it and a skill with that. Movement and manipulation combined, which also makes, and from the movement side, it also makes me a skin artist. This is not adult skin work, but theatrical and what do you call it? Imagination, say some monsters and things like that. So the people that are inside those costumes depicting goblins or whatever. Now, I've been training actors. For me, I can make any actor a puppeteer, sort of. As long as you have rhythm, beat, feel music, feel movement, that's what I need in you to then, to guide you into puppetry. So, through my shows, yes, I've trained up quite a few actors. So now I also had auditioned years back for TV series, which I got, and I worked with Ailsa Burke. So we were in the cast, and that was another children's series depicting folk tales from around the world and acting them out. Pat Kiesel was the director producer for that. And so Ailsa carried on with her work. I stayed at Polka. And she joined up with Jim Henson organization. And so every now and then I'd be getting a phone call from her, can you recommend any puppeteers, etc.? Or can you recommend this, that, and the other? And I'll go through my Rolodex in those days. I think it's something different electronically, and fish out various names. And so there was one call that came in. This is another film, though. One call that came in, being a bear. So I went through the card and said, by the way, I want to be a bear as well. So I put my name in. And also because it was workshop auditions, and I love workshop auditions. You know, that's where you have group work together, create something together, and you can let the directors suss out who's what and things like that. So via that, I think I got onto the Henson books, shall we say, and again, Robert Tigner, in a way, had come up through my ranks, and he's mightily involved with Henson's. And so the phone call also came in. We need somebody to play this yellow furry monster thing. Can you do it? I couldn't, because I was tied up with productions. Somebody else got it. Caithen got it. But lo and behold, a year later, can you do it? And this time, yes, I can do it. And so I did it. And so now I am dressed up as a lovely, cuddlesome, active honey monster, and appeared in various episodes. But again, that's a phone call to me, not me phoning around auditioning. That's been my luck.
There's always things in live theatre, particularly when you're doing weekly rep and you are slightly under-rehearsed. I remember doing a Durbridge play, and we told the front of house what time the interval was. So they've been told how many scenes, and so we got close to that time, and the lights went down on the previous scene. They hadn't realised there was a very short scene, so when those lights went down, they thought it was the interval. Open the doors, light poured in, audience started pouring out, curtain goes up, and the actors are on stage thinking, what do we do? And I had to leave the auditorium, run round to the box and go, it's the interval.
As a director of photography, technically your job is bringing the director's vision to life by liaising with the director and knowing what their vision is. So regardless of the size of film, first off, I will always ask that question and try and let them give me a visual representation. I'll say, look, send me some film stills of how you see, how you compare this. Is it Seven? Is it dark? Is it moody? Is it bright, colourful? Muted colours, colourful. So I kind of get the vibe of what the director wants. So the director of photography then has to somehow produce that. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, then a lot of that is to do with one, lighting. So chatting to the gaffer and their crew of saying, well, this is the vibe we need to create, and maybe this is how we need to light it. So that's more the director of photography's job rather than anything to do with the camera. So what you would normally then have these people around me would be a cam op, so a person that is operating the camera. So you're instructing them as to, well, we're starting off with a wide shot, whatever the shots are, whatever the camera movement is the movement, is it static, is it erratic? So you're then having to tell the cam op what you want them to do. Then next to that, you will have your first AC, which is the first assistant camera. And again, that's quite a responsible job, because it's their job to look after the camera physically and all of the needs of the camera. So they'll have been told what lens we're putting on. It's their responsibility to build the camera at the beginning of the shoot, put it together, check it out. Is everything working? And generally they will be pulling focus as well. So they'll be there around a monitor, focusing the camera. The cam op is just moving the camera as whatever they've been told. And then, depending on the size of the project, you might well have a second AC and a third AC even. Like the second AC, for argument's sake, the first AC may be relaying right to a second AC, go and swap me this lens, go and get me that, or pass this to me, and they will put it on the camera. And the second AC might be keeping the camera logs, which, again, on the bigger films, everything you do with that camera is recorded. And a lot of people don't see that, because generally on an indie shoot, you won't get that.
Yeah.
I can give you an example of why it is actually important. So what they will log is, right, the camera has a 50mm lens. It's set to f-stop 2. It's at colour, sort of the colour temp is 5,200 Kelvin. They will measure the height of the camera. It's 1.2 meters off the ground, and it's 2 meters from the talent. Now, you might think of just initially that, wow, do you really need to know what all that information? But the reason they do that is, as soon as you switch round to perhaps a different angle, so it's a two-way conversation, and then you're moving round to shoot the other actor, you want to set that camera the same distance and the same height, so it's a matching shot. But on a shoot I did where I was actually a first AC rather than a DP a couple of years ago, we did have to pick a shot up. Something happened, I can't remember. We had to go back and redo a scene, or part of a scene, and without that information, you just wouldn't have remembered. You wouldn't have known where the camera was and what height it was or how far away it was. So yeah, that information can be really important. Depending on the shoot. Like I say, it's very rare you get that on sort of the lower indie shoots, but Yeah, it can be really important. Yeah. So that I think that's sort of the main people in an ideal world what we would have around the camera.
I wound up living in Danny Boyle's flat. He had a council flat in Mile End, and he kind of signed it over to me. And I was doing a series. I just finished a series, Widows. They did 2 series of that, but I was still at the Royal Court, and I went to a wrap party after rehearsals one day, and it was a messy Euston Fields wrap party. Everybody's a bit drunk, a bit stoned and stuff. And I was getting egged on to do a back somersault. And I thought, I'm a little bit all over the place there. So I don't, and I go on, Pete, do one. Then we clap round in a circle. And I did a back somersault landing. They said, no, you could do higher. You could do higher. I remember you did it higher. And I'm like, and it's strangely enough, I borrowed a quid out of everybody in the cast to get me a cab to get to this thing. So Jan Wally, Leslie Banville, Gary Oldman, Mark Winger, Peter Daly, Adrian, they all lent me a quid to get a cab. Right. And I did this second somersault. There was some beer on the ground. I landed, but I slipped. Knocked my head, spark out. Party ended. I'm carted off an ambulance, coma for 2 weeks. I lost about 2 stone. And strangely enough, just before that accident, I'd had the casting for Prospects, and I thought I'd messed it up. Gary Olsen actually went on for me at the Royal Court, and then I went back to the Royal Court because it was so successful. We did a really long run of the 2 Bond plays, and for some unbelievable stroke of luck, they gave me the job of Prospects even after the accident. But it just made me very wary about acrobatics and alcohol. So. Yeah.
Kim's Convenience was first written for the stage back in 2011, is that right? But then became a sitcom and then revisited the theatre when it was brought back for this most recent one. So tell us a bit more about that, because you have a sort of a couple of links, because you're from Toronto and it's set in Toronto, is that right?
Yeah, it's set in Toronto, and it does take place actually, because it was written in 2011/12. So it takes place in 2012, which is sort of essentially when I kind of left Toronto. So my memory of Toronto still is of that time, which is quite interesting. So yeah, it was really nice to sort of go back to that world. I do have a lot of links to it because I'm from Toronto, but also so Toronto was great growing up, as someone who wanted to be an actor and just enjoyed the theater. Like, we had a lot of theater. I remember, we had a lot of Broadway shows. We had Phantom of the Opera and Beauty and the Beast that stayed in Toronto for a good number of years. I remember just like making my parents like take me there all the time and stuff. But then obviously as I got older, I would discover some of the other sort of theater companies and stuff. And I discovered a company called Soul Pepper, and they were a company that worked in the distillery district, and they're the ones who took on Kim's Convenience. So I was familiar with that company, but also the writer Ince, because actually Ince Troy, who wrote it, he performed in some of the shows, and I remember seeing him on stage a few times, which is quite cool. I remember telling him this in the audition, but I hope he wasn't thinking I was like really into him or whatever. But it was really cool seeing him. Because just back then you weren't seeing many East Asian actors on stage, so just to see that already sort of made an impact on me, and then to see that he had a play that he wrote at the Toronto Fringe Festival, which like blew up and like completely sold out, and which is why Soul Pepper sort of took it on. So to see that little journey of that was quite it was quite inspiring, and I think in some ways has helped me sort of want to pursue this and feel okay with that, because obviously, if you don't see yourself on screen, there really weren't many East Asian actors on the screen in theater, that sort of thing growing up. It does make a big difference. So unfortunately, I actually never saw Kim's Convenience on stage back then. I think I was already studying it in Florida. I think they did two remounts of it. Just never really worked out, but which is fine, because I would have liked to have seen him. So the writer himself played the son, Jung, which is the role that I'm playing now at the park, which I played at the Park Theater, and then he is now playing the dad. So it does sort of come full circle and is quite nice. And then so it turned into a TV show. which I saw a few times, usually like when I'm on the plane and stuff. But it's kind of weird. I sort of left Toronto after high school. I always would go back, obviously, for holidays and stuff. But in a way, I've sort of just like, yeah, I didn't have a traumatic childhood or anything like that, but I sort of put Toronto aside a little bit. So actually, I didn't really watch the show very much because I was a bit like, I don't know, yeah. Which I think kind of is fine. So it was kind of nice to, through this play, try to reconnect with my Toronto self, and all that stuff, and to work with people from Toronto. So we actually brought over Ince, who's the writer and playing the dad, and then also the director was the original Janet in 2011, and she's become a director, and so they brought her over to direct, and it was just nice to sort of be with some fellow Torontonians, and and just like we're doing like a lot of the table work and just like discussing all these things that are in the script, and it is very, very Toronto, very Canadian. I was glad that I was able to sort of offer my own sort of knowledge of Toronto and Toronto of that time as well. So it was I was really glad that they sort of took a chance on me and allowed me to be part of that.
I always forget about this story until I met someone for a few times, and then I probably tell it, and people are more amazed than I seem to remember it happening. But auditioning for drama school, I was a latecomer, so I was in my 30s. I go to drama school. I picked my pieces. I picked a piece by Stephen Burkoff out of East, and a Shakespeare piece as well for East 15. East 15, you do your auditions in front of each other. So you get up, you do your piece, everyone watches, they give you some direction. You do your other piece, you sit down. Anyway, I did my Shakespeare piece, lovely. Didn't get any direction on it. I thought, cracking. Okay, let's go into Burkoff's piece. And those of you who know Burkoff, it's physical theatre. So I'm there. I can't remember the name of the character now, but at one point he's being beaten up by the police or something. So I put my hands behind my back and I'm swinging my head as if I'm being punched in the face, and I do a rather heavy swing of the head. My whole body swings. My whole feet come off the ground and I land on the floor, on my hip, bang, on the side. I go, oh, that hurt a bit. Well, I'll carry on. I'll get up. I'll carry on. So I get up. I get through the end of speech. And they go, oh, thank you very much. Don't need to be redirected. I'm thinking, good. Feeling a little bit worn out now. I'll go and sit down. So I sit down on the front row, watching someone else. And then this girl next to me puts her hand up, and stops the person auditioning on the stage. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's looking at me, and she looks at the director in the room, who was the head of drama there, John Baraldi. He's sadly no longer with us, but he was in the room. And she said to him, I think this guy needs an ambulance. And I'm thinking, who needs an ambulance? And she's looking at me, and I'm sweating buckets. I've gone into shock because I fractured my hip. I've literally fractured my hip on the concrete floor, the Corbett Theatre in East 15, while auditioning for drama school. So anyone who knows East 15 in Loughton knows that the ambulance station is next door. So the ambulance is in there, quick flash. They're in there. I'm on a stretcher being carried out of my audition on gas and air, not really knowing what's going on, to be fair, at that point. I get straight off to Whipps Cross Hospital. I'm in A&E, laying there in A&E, in agony, absolute agony. It hurt. And I get a phone. My sister's with me. She gets a phone call on my phone, hands it to me. It's John Baraldi saying, Andrew, I hope you're all right. He's Canadian. I can't do a Canadian accent. Hope you're okay. Just to let you know, you got in. And I told him to F off. Because I was in so much pain. I just went off, and put the phone down. And that was my introduction to drama school, really. So I had to defer for a year because I was on crutches. So I didn't go until 31. And to this day, I still have 3 metal pins in my right hip, which still give me jit on a.
Unbelievable.
Well, all I can say is that is probably one of the most painful guest stories we've ever heard. But it has to be said, that it didn't slow Andrew's career down. I mean, the fact that he told his future principal to do one in no uncertain terms, it didn't seem to bother him. I think he was given the benefit of the doubt there, but no need to give any of our guests the benefit of the doubt. They have been absolutely fantastic this season. Yeah. Fantastic.
A really superb bunch of people who we couldn't do this show without. So an enormous thank you once again to every single one of them. So to Gary, to Brian, to Roman, to Andy, to Sue, and to Pete. Thank you each and every one of you so very much. It's been a fabulous season of guests. And we are indebted to all of you.
Absolutely. But it doesn't stop there, Sam, because next week is the big one. It's you and me, mate. It's the best of us. It's the last episode, sadly, but it is the best of us. We go out with a bit of a bang, shall we?
I think we can probably manage that. So, mate, I am going to raise my beer to you.
Lovely. I'll raise me coffee. A little bit left.
Cheers to you. Thanks again to all our wonderful guests this season and everyone tuning in. Come back next time to see the best bits of me and him. Take it easy. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed this special highlights episode of Drewling Samantics.
If you have, then make sure you go and watch all our previous episodes in full for even more fun and interesting content. Please consider subscribing to our channel too, and you'll get notified every time a new video is released.
Don't forget we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And we'd love your support on social media as well. We're on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and all our links and handles are on the screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so please share with your family and friends, and we'll be eternally grateful. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.